one guard. You're supposed to be guarding the door.
Plus, you know who they are, and they live
Yeah,
where you live.
like, you see them every day. What? I don't get it. You would never do that. Never.
Well, and I'm guessing this implies that the prelate was like, specifically, I don't want Richard in here. So, like, you weren't supposed to just sit there and be like, okay, Richard can't come in. You were supposed to make sure that you were keeping your eyes out for anything that might lead to Richard being able to sneak in. But, again, we don't know how much these sisters know of Richard's, like, fuckery. Because the prelate knows more of Richard than even the people at the palace. Because she was reading the journey book from Verna with everything coming in.
She knew what Verna was dealing with, trying to get him back to the palace.
Right. So these sisters may not know that Richard needs a little bit more of a...
kick in the ass?
Yeah, well, like, you need to watch closer. You can't just, like, take off during your shift. It's not... You can't.
Look, Elisha, normally you come in here and you give a solid 75%. And you know what? We appreciate that about you. It's never dipping at 60. No, we don't see you slacking, but you're not exactly giving us everything. With Richard, we're going to need at least a 95.
Yeah, for sure. And because of that, you're going to go get spanked in front of the whole fucking palace. Isn't that going to be great? It's going to be great.
Yeah, I love how she's like, you can't do that. I'm a sister. And the prelate just says something to the effect of, well, a little humiliation will probably do you good.
What's also interesting is she was totally willing to let this happen to Richard, who is a grown-ass fucking man. But when it's happening to her, she's like, oh no!
Oh yeah, no shit. So the sisters, the failed guards, they leave, and Richard is told to call Prelate Annalena, just Anne. I love the non-formality here. She's like, dude, just stop with all the shit. Like Kaylin, Mother Confessor, do you want this? Mother Confessor, do you want that? Like, can you just call me Kaylin? Motherfucker, I see you every day. The title is nice, but, like, maybe just formal occasions. Yeah. Right now, it's whatever. Just whatever.
I'm like a person, so...
I would get annoyed with it. I hate being called Mr. Bruni myself. It's just weird. Like, Mr. No, dude, like, I'm Nate. I'm just Nate. Stop it. I'm the dude.
So Anne tells Richard that what he just did was part of his training as a wizard, since they have to use people. This is something that we've been told since the beginning. Yeah. Wizards use people.
Zed has said that before.
Yeah.
And actually, Ahern has said that just a few chapters ago to Zed, because Zed doesn't know.
Yeah, he's Reuben.
They go for a walk, and they talk in her garden, and Richard tells her what the situation is with the keeper. Now, he says keeper, and Anne tries to get him to not use the name, and Richard's like, whoa, hold up. That's dumb. He's not going to be fooled when we say the nameless one. Like, he knows. I mean, Richard's got a point. He's fucking smart, and it's not really going to matter, because it's the keeper.
And he's going to know the other names you used.
Right, yeah. Like, obviously, he's not an idiot. And Anne is just so happy to finally have another person who gets it.
You know, I don't like doing a whole lot of the comparisons, but this did totally remind me of the whole Voldemort.
Oh, yeah.
He who must not be named thing. Yeah. Fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself.
Right.
Like, there's no point. Just call his ass Voldemort.
Moldy Voldy.
Moldy Voldy.
But I thought it was interesting that this is the second or third example now we have of Anne saying one thing because it's like, it's the rules, yada yada, and then actually, behind the curtain, if you will, it's different. Like, no, you can't see the prelate because she's busy. Oh, I'm sorry I can't see you. I'm super busy. Actually, it was a test. No, you can't say keeper because that attracts his attention. And when Richard's like, no, that's stupid, she's like, yeah, no, I totally agree. Either she's very wishy-washy, which I don't think is the case, or she's upholding this level to test people because she's the leader of this Palace of the Prophets, and she wants to know what they're made of, and then once they prove that, then there's no need for this formality bullshit. Like, you get it, I get it, we can just both exist and get it.
Well, and I think maybe there's something to be said for, like, respecting the rules, but also being able to use reason to, I don't know if bending the rules is the right term, but not allowing the rules to lock you in, and and not use your reason. Like, you can rise above with your reason. Like, you can use your mind to rise above.
You don't have to function necessarily within the rules of the palace to excel at the palace.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that the person who's running the palace, who knows the way things are supposed to run, isn't locked down by those things because she's able to use her brain and say, okay, well, this situation isn't that.
Your brain is the key.
Yeah.
We got there. We're good. That's kind of a complicated concept.
You know what I need after that?
Well, what's that, JD?
A beer.
Fantastic. I'm thirsty.
Yeah, it's time for the beer break.
All right. So tonight we have Red Velvet from Rochester Mills for our, well, I guess this would be our final 12 days of Christmas. Technically it's after Christmas, but we had to sneak this one in here.
And technically we didn't drink all the beers.
That's true. Well, so we'll probably just keep drinking them anyways. Up until now, I've said that every single one of these beers was fantastic, great, and you should definitely try it. But we found one, guys. This is not very good. So, I know what they were going for, like a velvet cake type amber ale, maybe, except it's a stout, and the I don't know how to explain the flavor of this, because it doesn't taste like what you want. But the velvet flavor does not transfer to stout. It didn't work. It just didn't work.
I think there was a sour note in it.
I was going to say, it tasted like something was burning.
Well, okay. It's just, it's not what you expect, okay? And normally, red velvet cake, as far as I know, or at least I've heard, is just chocolate cake with red food coloring.
Oh, that could be, but then it definitely wasn't chocolate.
Right. It
was not that.
This beer does not taste like that.
No. So, I mean, I think we've done right by Rochester Mills. We tried at least 8 of those on air, and every single one was great. And this being, I think, the 9th, not great.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't on us. This is on them.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. But we've been fair. Like, we give our honest opinions of these, and hey, they had a bad one. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're not paying us, so...
No, they're not. But hopefully, if they listen to this podcast, they'll be like, hey, guys, we gotta fucking up the ante on this velvet shit, because it's just not flying.
Yeah, this one podcast really hates it, so we better fix it.
Well, that's good enough reason for me.
Yeah, same.
So we are, I mean, honestly, going to switch and have something else. And we'll be back right after this. And we are back with something tastier to drink and ready to continue the chapter. So right now is kind of question time. Richard finally has the prelate cornered. That sounded weird. He finally has her attention. And he wants to know some shit because, you know, Seeker.
There's a lot of shit going on.
Oh,
So.
yeah. This is kind of a huge info dump. Like, we get a lot more background as to what she's been doing, where she's been, and just kind of like, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, let's just get into it.
So he asks her what the pebble in the pond is, and she tells him that he is one. Kinda duh. She throws a stone into the pond and shows him how the pebble affects everyone around him. Now, Richard notices that the stone sinks, which is not great.
He's like, wait, hold on.
Hold up.
I'm noticing something here.
I don't like this analogy. Well, and she does kind of say that everybody is a pebble in a way.
Yeah.
You know, everybody affects everybody around them, which is something I think is true. Everybody around you does affect you, and they might not be a very clear way, but just dealing with somebody puts you in a certain mood, and then you go to somebody else in that mood, and it's a chain.
Yeah.
But Richard is more like a fucking cannonball than a pebble compared to other people. Either way they sink, he doesn't like that.
Well, yeah, no, because he can change the world around him, but he's gonna be fucked, is basically what this analogy looks like.
Yeah, and it is kind of indicative of a hero, because the purpose of a hero is not to beat the bad guy. The purpose of a hero is to struggle.
And save everyone else.
Yeah, it's to do something in a way that you look at them and go, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sink to be the hero, but Richard, he's got to sink to be the hero.
Well, and it's kind of funny because that's not usually, though, what you expect out of a hero story. You want at the end for them to end up with the girl and everything will be great. And
the monster's dead. We got the girl. Probably a cool sidekick.
But that's
funny
not...
horse.
Hercules? Is that what's happening?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. But that's not real life.
No, it's not, unfortunately. So Richard tells her the Stone of Tears is in this world and that something needs to be done. And implies that Richard isn't ready to fight the Keeper, because what are you going to do? It's the Keeper. And the Keeper hasn't swallowed them yet, so he must not be ready either. He needs more than just the stone.
Yeah. Everybody needs some more training. You need to calm down. It's going to be fine.
We at least need one solid montage of you working out and swinging your sword.
With your shirt off.
Doing shirt's definitely got to be off. What's the point if he has his shirt on, really?
For real.
And so, amidst all of this, you got to get trained up, your upbringing, if you will, and kind of pivots and starts asking Richard about his dad. And that is when Richard realizes she's not talking about Dark and Roll. She's talking about George. And then, he makes a couple big jumps here.
Yeah,
All right, evil. But she realizes that Anne helped George get the Book of Counted Shadows, and that Anne had actually met Richard when he was a baby.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shocking revelation. It was actually really hard for me to figure out how to encompass this in one note, because he definitely went from, just general information about, hey, your dad was a good dude, to him being you gave him the fucking book.
Very specific things that happened in the past, yeah. And I also kind of thought it was interesting, being adopted as I am, and having met my birth family a couple of years ago, having somebody that you are positive you have never laid eyes on in your life tell you, I knew you when you were a baby, or I saw you all that time ago, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And there is no way for you to really know when you're a baby, but it is kind of a shock to the system that I've had history with you years and years and years ago that I was totally unaware of.
And a lot of times, and specifically in Anne's case, after you met that baby, you're invested in that baby. And so, for that person's whole life, you're, following it and you care. Whereas the other person had no idea of your existence. So, it's a very one-sided relationship for your entire life up to that point. It's weird.
Yeah, very weird.
Anne has a lot of time invested in Richard because he has both sides of the gift. This also does lead to a little bit of, this whole situation does lead to a little bit of a question, which I'm sure we're going to get an answer to at some point. I just want to point out that Anne did make it to the New World and back when Richard was a baby. And also, you pointed this out while we were listening, she didn't fucking tell anybody that she knew where his ass was.
Yeah! Now, we know that Verna just was sent out and spent years looking for Richard. We know now for a fact that she was actually looking for him before he was born.
Mm-hmm.
That means Verna was sent out before Richard was born to go look for Richard, right? Blindly.
Yep.
Then Anne leaves the palace, goes to Richard, does the thing.
Goes right there.
And then goes back, and then waits for Verna for another 20-odd years.
And sending her messages in the...
What the fuck?
In the journey book, yeah,
Hey,
man, that's
him.
Weird. I have no idea where he is.
Son of a bitch.
How pissed off would you be?
Now, I know we get more details about this later, but this was the first time, in this reread, that I was like, how do you do that to somebody?
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, playing dumb for 30 years. Also, Yeah, it's interesting because to our knowledge, it was really fucking hard for Verna to come back by herself, and
Right?
now we're finding out that apparently Anne had some secret mission where she just like popped right through.
She could just